Hello viewers, I'm SB and welcome back to Last Call BBS and, for the moment at least, the final puzzle of the 20th Century Food Court. Now granted, we have seen things get added to the game already. We don't know that this is the end, but for the moment it looks like the end. So let's look at these instructions again. Sometimes we're going to be asked to make soup. We don't have to do anything when it's soup except dispense a bowl and then dispense soup into that bowl. Yes? Let's verify that that's the case, but I have to imagine. So this thing is the bowl and plate dispenser. Easiest thing is if that's just a sorter. Okay. On start, bowl. I guess actually I need like a... Well, no, actually, I don't need a sequencer for this, and then we can just do sense soup. I guess the smart thing to do would probably be to, like, sense is soup and also eject so that it doesn't do more soup. You do have to wire the soup part back up, though. Okay, yeah, that's a whole soup by itself. Cool, great, excellent. That's very easy to do. Okay, so there are 6 orders, but one of them kind of isn't really in order. So there's 2 kinds of... There's tuna nigiri and salmon nigiri, which are just tuna, rice, salmon, rice. And the only difference between the nigiri and the sashimi is that the sashimi is one of each, and then sashimi goes in a bowl while these go on a plate. I think. Yeah, it's 1 and 1. Okay, so it doesn't explicitly show us stacking the tuna and salmon on the rice to form the nigiri, but I assume that that's how that works. Okay, so the biggest trick here is, I guess let's do the thing we usually do and just run this over here. The biggest trick here is we have to have the salmon and the tuna routed to the process that does the complicated stuff for the maki, and also to the process that does the nigiri and the sashimi. Like, basically, this is one piece. It's going to have some complicated workings in it. This is one piece. And these two have to do something. They have to be completely wired up to the fish. And then this, we can actually just have the soup dispenser like anywhere and it's fine. So we're not going to worry about you for the moment. Just get out of the way. All right. So you're always going to need a bowl or a plate. Everything needs a bowl or a plate. Is that true? It doesn't show the in the examples here. It doesn't show the maki getting stacked on a plate, but in the example output, the maki is clearly on a plate. So you're always going to need a bowl and a plate. You're always going to need, almost always going to need this. You are always going to need. Okay, so the bowl or plate is the only actually always, but you need the fish and the rice for everything except the soup. How do we want to handle this? Okay, everything starts by stacking. Yeah, everything starts by stacking 2 units of fish on top of 2 units of rice. Let's start with that. Also, let's make sure that I understand how this is going. So, like, that's just some rice. If I want to make sure that I'm understanding that that is 2 units of rice, because it might not be, right? It might be 1 unit of rice. So if I say output a tuna, output a rice. Okay, yeah, that is That is too. It's interesting because it's a full like object width of. Yeah, it's like a full belt width of rice, and it looks like a full belt width of tuna. But I was expecting to make smaller things because they both have to fit on the nori. Okay, whatever. It's fine. So it's like. How does this work then? You have your fish spawning logic. We can run a little bit of like fish spawning logic, right? So first of all, it's you run that same thing twice. I guess I do. Let's go ahead and run a multiplexer here, and we'll just like, for the moment, we understand this is a thing that happens on start. This is a little tricky because we do want to run it twice, but we can't do so. It's a little problematic because I need the information about what we're supposed to be making. It's not totally trivial to have the tray in a place where it can be scanned at this moment, though. For the moment, we'll do kind of a goofy thing here. So, on start, we'll do like, we're gonna need some multi-mixers in here. Okay, if it's tuna plus 1, okay. So now we have the positive and the 0 outputs so that we can know which fish to spawn. And this is a thing that runs in every case except for the soup, which is actually kind of a tricky. How are we going to run the logic on that? It actually is like it adds a lot of complication that you spawn the fish in 5 situations. But not all situations. Because if it was 4 situations, we could just hack it together with a multi-mixer. They have done us something terrible here. So I guess the idea is, okay, this thing, though, only runs in 4 of those situations. So I'm gonna cut this. I shouldn't have cut that. We wanted a multi-mixer, just not that one necessarily. But the idea is okay. So if it's the tuna or the salmon, then you start this sequencer. The sequencer is only for spawning 2 of the same fish. Okay, and when it is tuna, we are also turning on this thing. Okay, when it's either of the kinds of tuna, you are also adding +1 to this counter so that we have a fish tracker, fish type tracker. Real, actual, live fish type tracking. Can you believe it? I guess this can be, instead of being just AA, this can be ABAB. I was going to run the same command to both of these, but why produce the extra multi-mixer, right? So you do a tuna, you do a salmon. So that would spawn 2 of those. I actually do want this stacker here. I'm just kind of playing around for the moment. We also need 2 rice spawns. And I mean, we need those anyway, but I want to see something. Shoot, that was supposed to... Okay. I was kind of hoping that it would weave in between them. It's fine. Okay. So, the thing is, the nori The nori comes out of the same damn thing. Okay. On start, spawn the nori. What happens if we do it like this? So does it put the rice on there? It does put the rice on there. Will it stack the fish onto it if I... Yes. Okay, so we can do a full assembly there. In the instructions, yeah, it shows it like that. Okay. So we can do all that. So what we want to do is we want to have some routing in here, and this is like the pathway for that. The thing is, we probably want to do the assembly for the rice and the fish separately, because we also do that rice and fish assembly for the sashimi, right? So this is probably like a router. And when it is nori, we just send it down here to get caught by a stacker further down. Right, maybe something like that. So this path... Oh, you can't send stuff into a router like this. That's fine. This goes like that. Okay. So yeah, nori gets sorted this way. Fish and rice get gathered up here. And then like this is another sorter maybe? Or another router. And it's like the fish and rice sometimes get sent over to the nori, but sometimes simply get sent to a bowl or a plate. However, this is a little screwy because the bowls and the plates is that way. Well, the output of this thing has to get sent to a bowl or a plate anyway. So probably the deal is actually the bowls and the plates go this way. And we could just, you know, do this. And then there's... That gets stacked on the tray, but no other stacking occurs. But we need this stacker no matter what, because even if there is a bowl or a plate with stuff already on it, that gets put on a tray either way. Okay, so this is, I think this is functional routing at the very least. Which is to say that this doesn't need to be a sorter or a router. We can just send this way. I think. The other thing I guess we could do is we could skip this step entirely. Because if we just send everything down, this stacker can take care of it at this point. If it's a maki dish, yeah, the nori will get down here right after the plate or bowl. Yeah. I kind of hate all this. This is very ugly, but looking at it, I am wondering if it's right. Okay. So I think I'm pretty happy with this routing. Now it's just a matter of figuring out the logic. And I may actually just completely unwind. This work may actually be important. All right, let's do... Let's do the soup. Let's figure out the soup line, because the soup line should be pretty straightforward. If I do, let me see if something breaks here. If I fire the give me a bowl command and the dispense soup command simultaneously, that will break the machine, right? It's not like the bowl arrives and then it receives the soup. No, because we know from experience that I hate to say squirters, but you know, fluid emitters, better, definitely different. Like this, they execute their dispense command before movement happens for the turn. Because we know we can move something away at the same time that it it gets something put into it. So it's a little awkward. Like, I don't want to run a sequencer for this, but I don't know what else to do. Oh, I didn't... Do we need a roller? Yes, we need the roller. I forgot about this. Shoot. Yeah, if you're doing the nori assembly, it has to happen way earlier because you have to do a bunch of stuff to it. Shit. So this is not okay. So this routing is not functional, and we may want to change a lot about it. Okay. So we're putting the fish on the rice, no matter what. Then we can just do all of this here. We don't need to use physical routing. We can use logic, right? So this can be fish on nori or this can be fish on rice or fish on rice on nori. We don't need to create a whole separate path. Then we want some routing because we have to know whether this goes into the roll and cut or if it just and in fact, I can move this back a little bit even to give me more space. We need to know if this goes into the roll and cut or if it just heads straight to the stacker to get put on a plate. If it does have to get rolled and cut, it's roll, slice, slice again. And both halves have to get sliced again. Okay. I may actually want it to run the roll this way because we're going to need some space. Well, I mean, let's assume we can make this work. Slice it. And then, like, I really want to just run like this. That doesn't work, though, because of the stupid monitor. How do we do this? We don't actually have a lot of space around here. We could like do some loop routing. I really want to just use 3 slicers because it's very fast and straightforward. I mean, technically that gets it all where it's going. And then you have over here a tray with a plate already on it. I actually think that works. It's goofy and it's going to take a long time to run. Yeah, it's goofy and it's going to take a long time to run, but it does totally work. Wait, no it doesn't. No it doesn't. This output needs to go through another slicer. These 2 outputs totally do not. How do I make that happen? The actual answer is that then like this has to be a router, which sucks. No, never mind, that doesn't work. We know that doesn't work. However, you can enter from the sides of a sorter. So it's like slice, push through, and then we want this thing to be just running right commands literally all of the time aside from that. It's definitely work for a router, except that the router will be recalcitrant and to not actually accept the inputs. Okay. I do not like this. This is bad. If I'm not going to try to run the two slicers right off of the second and third slicer, right off of the first slicer, can I move this over? I wonder if we can make this work a little bit less badly. I don't know. It's really tough, honestly. We're really feeling the space limitations, you know? All right, I'm going to leave it like this. This is functional routing, even if it is really ugly routing. Okay, so stack array is always going to be stack and eject. It's always just going to be rice, fish, rice, fish. However, actually, this has to be a multi-mixed stack to eject because we do need to be able to fire the eject in other circumstances. Like when we are making maki, we'll have to fire the eject at least once. No. Sorry. I was still thinking the old way. We are not sending stuff. We are not sending the nori through. It is sitting here. But that means we absolutely cannot just run stack to eject. We have to perform a logical eject. We have to do it like a whole bunch too. We are calling eject on this thing constantly. Like 4 times per order in a lot of cases. Okay. How do I run just the soup command? What's the easiest way? When I say easiest, what I mean is least complicated. And when I say that, what I mean is least rack space. What is the least rack space way to make a soup if we needed to make a soup? You got to spit out the bowl. On the next cycle, you have to, I guess, what we can do though is we can make this a sorter thing where like sense is, that's going to be a ton of rack space actually though. What I was going to say is on sense, it multi-mixes a through command into a check if soup is the active order, and if so, dispense soup thing. But first of all, we won't even have this information anymore because this is the first cycle. And secondly, we're talking about, at the very least, the sorter sensor plus two multi-mixers. So we're already, plus we would have to have a scanner for that to work. And that's going to create other problems because the tray is not naturally stopping in a place where we can scan it at the moment. We kind of can't do anything about that because the device over here, the routing device that we built, actually does use 100% of the height and width of the building area. This is legitimately very difficult. How do we... I mean, I would really hate to have to do a sequencer for soup. Are you allowed to do a dispense onto... Nope, you are not allowed to do a dispense onto a stacker space. Well, I gotta be honest with you. Not sure what to do with that. It could be a whole lot of sequencing. It might be a whole lot of sequencing. Okay, if we were going to try to run this in a sequency way, Let me just burn all of this logic. I need to start over with the routing in place. I need to try to build from this routing. So if we were going to run this like in a sequency way, what do we have? We have 3 different major paths. Sashimi is basically a kind of nigiri for the purposes of putting it together. There's that bowl and plate difference, but aside from that, they're like functionally extremely similar. But we do have to do a little bit of fish logic. All right, sequencers. First things first, I'm gonna leave a little bit of room for more sequencers to get plugged in. I'm also turning on this fan. I apologize if that's audible. I can see that it is like very slightly audible, but it is so hot in here. So fish logic. We're spawning 2 of the same fish. Is the best way, man. Am I just going to end up rebuilding that terrible counter-based fish logic? Because that was, first of all, a lot of space, and secondly, just really crummy. We could use smaller... Oh, sorry. That was a hand twitch. We could use smaller counters... You know what? Maybe this isn't how this goes. This is the spawn tuna? Yeah. Okay, this is the spawn tuna builder. Okay, what we can do is... we can... This is going to be such a nightmare. Okay. So the tuna maki needs a multi-mixer. Tuna maki needs a multi-mixer. This thing needs a multi-mixer. We may end up... We're going to have to end up building a multi-mixer for each of these things because each of the basic outputs... each of the non-soup outputs is going to have to do a bunch of setup work. So this is the tuna nigiri, this is the salmon nigiri, this is the sashimi. Okay. So. Then we need, this is the I'm making maki multi-mixer. So we plug both of the makis into here, and they spawn nori immediately. That's the thing that we know is going to happen. Get that on the stacker. Okay. Then we need to do fish. So like, God, having to dispense fish twice does really suck. This honestly, like this first step where we build the thing is the hardest part of this. I'm not sure how to do it. I am wondering if maybe I need to do some more complicated routing. If I Because if we are doing the nori thing, we have to build everything right here, right? We end up doing like 5 stacks. If we're doing nigiri instead, we're doing a smaller number of stacks, and we have to get the things off the stacker. I guess I'm making an assumption there. But I'm assuming it won't let me turn these into... I'm assuming it won't let me turn these into a thing right then and there. Maybe I need to be thinking about this differently. Well, I was going to route the plate or the bowl to this. But my assumption is I can't do rice plus salmon plus rice plus salmon on the stacker if there's no nori and no plate. Because those are like two separate objects. But I guess we should test that, right? So, okay. Let's make this for right now. I'm just going to run this to here and we're going to do kind of a weird version of this thing. So, tuna or whatever, rice. We're just going to go tuna and rice spawn simultaneously, then spawn another rice, then spawn another tuna. What will it do with this? Sorry, that's right. The rice has to go later. Okay, yeah, it will not let me stack these four objects together, even though it would be perfectly fine to do that if there was some nori here already. It would also be perfectly fine to do that if there was a plate here already, which is a thing that's worth thinking about. But I can't just do this because in the situation where we do need to make maki, the nori with the stuff can't already be on the plate. It has to get rolled and chopped before it hits the plate. Because there's no way, nobody has ever invented a machine for unstacking objects. The very concept is so obviously ridiculous, who would even bother? So I might need to... So I think what I'm thinking here is that maybe our routing is actually not functional. Maybe I need to come up with a new way of routing this. Because, like, how are we going to solve the problem of needing to get the maki all chopped? So when there's maki, you have this step where you have to do... It just has to be separate routing, right? You can't send them both through the same thing. You have to decide early on what you're doing and route them accordingly. So I am gonna start us over. Give me a new copy of the base thing. Let's start over. Okay. So here's the deal. I think we need a router right here. How do we do this? Because we can't route the things. Maybe it's more like this. Okay. So if we're doing maki, we run some garbage out this way. Okay, and then we do our maki assembly happens down here. If we're doing sashimi, we push them both to the right instead, where we do a very different kind of assembly. The plate dispenser is in here somewhere. Where's my... Yeah, like it's in here somewhere, right? So it can just drop a plate or a bowl out that way. It can also catch the chopped up maki as it's coming through here. Well, no, there's no version of this. I think we can still do... this kind of thing, right? We have like a stacker here that is for building the sashimi and then ejecting them. And this one is absolutely wired to just stack eject. I don't know where we're going to find room for the soup. Probably here. We have a final stacker, as we often do, that does the putting on of the pieces at the end. This is where the bowl or the thing ends up. We could try to route this such that not everything is coming through here because there is no... Oh, never mind. I was about to say something very silly. I was about to say there's no stack to perform if we do soup, but that's not true. The soup goes in the bowl gets stacked on the plate or on the tray. It's just that sometimes there is more stacking than that, but that's pretty easy to handle with like an on system startup counter where it's just the counter is set to whatever the value's got to be, because it's not really that many different things going on here. Right. Yeah, these three are one case. So there's 5 stacks happening here, 3 stacks happening on all of these, and 1 stack happening there, which is very easy to set up with just a large counter, right? In fact, we can just run the logic for that right now. So it does involve a little bit of multi-mixing, as does everything, it turns out. Right now, we don't necessarily need the soup to be multi-mixed, but I'm going to go ahead and do it because we probably will need to use the initial soup condition in some other way later. So the sashimi and both of the kinds of nigiri go here, and they set +3, right? Because it's put the plate on the plate or the bowl, whatever. And then these are the 5s. Okay. Yeah, it is going to bother me. But should it be it should be the other way around, right? And then you get your classic stack decrement on eject or on 0 eject. And this is not the fast way to do this. This is the way that costs a cycle, but also it doesn't take any more rack space. And I think that might have to be good enough. In addition, this stacker is just running like that, so that's fine. Okay. So you have a couple of major decision points here. Number 1 is, if we're doing maki, we have to route one way. If we're doing nigiri or sashimi, we have to route a different way. And if we're doing soup, we don't have to give any routing information at all. The next thing is whether we emit a bowl or a plate. Because if we're doing maki or nigiri, we do plate. If we're doing sashimi or soup, we have to put out a bowl. Then that's kind of it though, right? Those are the decision points, because from there it's handled by the routing in theory. So it's like emit nori, emit rice, emit rice. We don't actually have to weave the fish in, right? I don't think so. So the idea is you have a stacker here, puts all the stuff together. And then once it comes out of the stacker, it gets rolled. And then here's where we're going to run into a little bit of trouble with space. You have a slicer, you have another slicer, and we might have to do something like this. Shoot. Having room for the soup dispenser is actually going to be a huge issue. Because I want to... How do I set these stackers up? Or these slicers, rather. What if it's... Okay, hold on. What if we do... this? The answer is frustrating. That kind of works, but obviously there's a tricky bit here where when we make maki, one of the maki ends up on this this stacker and has to be waved through. And we don't currently, I don't know how we will construct the logic that makes that feasible. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. For right now, let's say this is how this goes. I'm looking at this trying to figure out a way to rewire it. What if I... Nope, that's... I don't know. This is not different. This is just worse. Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll have to figure out a way to reposition some stuff. But I think this is a kind of routing that can actually work, and also it's a little bit less complicated. Well, I don't mean less complicated, obviously. You know what I mean. What if we... Okay, how about this? What if it's like... We run over here. This is the stacker. It's like a U-turn here. Goes into the roller. And then... No, that's not going to work. Never mind. I'm going to leave it like this. Okay, let's try to actually make this function. So, we have a setup for the final counter. We are going to have to multiplex this eject command now, because we also have to call it from somewhere else at least once. This one can be run through a counter, and we always know what the value on this is. Yeah, this has to run 4 of those. So... that's something that can be run from the, from the We're Making Maki multiplexer. So that's all good. Or multi-mixer, rather. And then on 0, eject. Okay. Okay, so all of the stackers have most of their logic. 2 of the stackers have all of their logic. One of them is going to need a little push at some point later in the experiment. Okay. And we've left ourselves room to be able to put down a scanner if we want to. I don't think I can afford to, though. When I say I don't think I can afford to, I mean I don't think we'll have the rack space, but also... we have to make all of our decisions really early in the machine anyway, so it's fine. Okay, let's also set up the logic for the routers. Right, because we need... It's a shame that straight is never a valid option for either of them. I mean, I know what that's like. Okay, so soup, we don't care. When we're doing nigiri or sashimi, they both aim to the right. Wait, do I need multi-mixing for this? I don't think I do. These are actually, yeah, these are already set up correctly. So they, oh, that's right. I need multi-mixing because they both, no, we just need outputs, and outputs we have. Yeah. Okay. Now we need to actually handle the spawns of the fish. In both cases, we spawn rice. And if we're smart about this, it can just be rice on both of the first two cycles, no matter what. Which would mean we could set up like a very simple system for doing that. I guess it would be a sequencer. I was trying to think of like how we would do it. You could do it with a large counter, but that takes up the same amount of space as a sequencer, and it's less versatile. It's not as useful for as many things. So I think it's okay to just make it a sequencer. I'll feel bad if it actually ends up being a sequencer that only spawns 2 rice, but the thing is, we need this to fire. We need this to fire in every circumstance except the soup, which means we could route both of these multi-mixers to it. That's a little inconvenient, though, because this multi-mixer doesn't have any more outputs. So we have to spawn another multi-mixer just to cover this. Right, we can make this do that, and then this one and this one together run to here, where we just fire the rice command twice. Except. If we're doing Maki, we have to do the nori command first. So it's more like right? But you also have to do logic on that. Well, no. Sorry, I'm sorry. You absolutely do not. You can just go rice. Because these are going to happen starting on cycle 2. So what we can do is, if we're making Maki, we can just fire the nori command on startup. Yeah. And then it's like fish. We have to do the fish thing, which is complicated. So we're starting this up in any circumstance where we need fish. Do I need to rebuild the fish counter? Maybe? The thing is, we need the fish to spawn quite differently in the 2 different cases. If we're making Maki, it's very easy for the fish to just spawn 2 fish, and cool. If we're making nigiri or sashimi, the fish have to spawn in such a way that they the second fish doesn't get to the stacker before the second rice does. It's problematic. We end up, okay, let me try to build it though. So we end up having to run a second multi-mixer of nigiri and sashimi instructions. We do want the rice spawn, but we have to have a separate sequencer for this. And in fact, a separate sequencer for fish spawning here as well, where it's like, this is the part where I have to come up with like I have to do the sentinel values for the types of fish thing. Here it can be, it's gonna have to be so much later. Here, I think it's okay if it's the first 2 cycles. Well, no, it probably can't be the first 2. Probably be 2 and 3. And then it's just like, yeah, run the fish spawn logic, which is messy and whatever. I guess this area right here is a fish spawn area. Okay, so we create a sentinel counter. And we could do this with one big counter using these 2 outputs, or we could use it with 2 small counters using their different outputs. This is the same amount of space, but it's actually cheaper because the big counter is only 5,000. So we do... No, this doesn't work. Because what we'd have to do is run a multi-mixer for each of the outputs so that it can feed into both the mixer that controls how it is, like this routing mixer, but also the mixer that is fish specific. So... fucking... what do we do? It is going to end up being less space to use a scanner. However, it is a lot of space still. Right, so the deal is like B runs to here. B runs to a multi-mixer that runs to both of those. Yeah, we're completely out of rack space. B runs to a multi-mixer that runs to both of these. They are enabled by multi-mixers that come off of here, telling us what kind of fish. So this solution doesn't work at all. It takes way, way, way too much rack space. And it takes this much room space. So in a lot of cases, we have the ability to offload some of the logic to the spatial logic area. But here, we cannot do that. The solution as I have constructed it cannot possibly work, I think. I need to come up with a totally different idea. And I don't really know how to approach that even. All right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bounce out of this. I'm going to spend some time working on this weekend. I'm going to come back to you with something, at least the beginning of something, next week. But let's do it. I need to decompress. I need to recover the feeling in my limbs. Let's just do like a quick. I want a cool kind of monster. Yeah, there we go. Welcome to the Shadow Caverns, friends. All right, so we know that, which means we know these, which means we know this, which means we know this. And in fact, we know that all of those are walls. And if that's the case, then we know all of these are walls. Also, we knew that because that row is already finished. So these things are random, right? So you're going to get a lot of puzzles that are kind of easier than they might otherwise be. A human being can construct some really interesting devilish stuff. Machines are still pretty bad at this. And all the evidence you need for that statement is to have ever played any roguelite. So, we have a treasure room here. We don't know if it's in that column or that column. Actually, yeah, we know it's not in this column because there are 5 spaces left here, but 4 of them are walls. So this is the treasure room, and we already know where the opening is. Okay, this has to be open, so this has to be a wall. that makes that a wall, which makes this open. And these two are both open. So wall and wall and wall. That was really fast. Give me another one. Hell yeah. More awesome, spooky. Are these supposed to be gnolls? They look like they have bat heads. So I don't know if that would be I don't know what kind of creature that would be. A humanoid bat-headed thing with a scythe. It's not even really a scythe. It's a hook on a stick. It's a long arm that is just the end of a sickle. It's cool. It's totally wicked, whatever it is. So we know the treasure room's not in this column. So that is definitely treasure room space. Obviously, we know the treasure room's not in this column or in this row. And it can't really be in this row either. So actually, I think we know this. And that means we know all of these. Okay. So that must be open. This is a wall. All of these tiles are walls. That's open, so that's a wall. All of these spaces are open. That one also is open. Yeah, a lot of this is like falling into place very quickly. So there's one more wall in this column, and it can't be here. Obviously, that creates issues. And if that is... if that's open, then this space has to be a wall, and this space has to be open. We got walls aplenty over here, and there, and there. Yeah, these are way easier than the ones that you get at the end of the game. So there's only one opening. Oh yeah, sorry, I know this as well. Which means that is an open space. We know that this treasure room is right here, and since we already know its exit, we can fill all of that in. One of these two is the connection between the bottom row and the row here, and we don't know which one. Every one of the possible treasure rooms for this chest contains those 4 spaces at the very least. We know this is a wall because there's only one wall unaccounted for in the rest of this column, so the open space must be... This monster's open space is in this column. We also know that this is an open space, which means that, right? And then that means this can't be a wall, obviously, so that gives us some other stuff to work with. And in fact, fills out this row, which is pretty cool. Yep, okay, so here's this treasure room. 4 is 2 of these 3. So this must be open then. Which means that's our treasure room. Okay. What do you say? One more. These are... Okay, I was going to say let's look for another... let's roll until we get another one with the cool bat creatures. But we did it. Hooray. So this row has 7 walls in it. We know that this treasure room is here. We also know that this treasure room contains at least these tiles. There are 5 walls. There's only 2 open spaces in this column. So the second treasure room is right here. And in fact, we know that at the very least, those 2 must be walls then. That also tells us that these 2 are walls, which we kind of already knew. That is actually a tremendous amount of information. This has to be a wall for a whole bunch of reasons. This column, 3 of these 4 spaces are walls. It cannot be these 3, right? That's very bad. So we know this is one of them. I guess we already knew that because we knew the open space around the monster. And in fact, we know a lot of things, it turns out. Not something I'm really used to. If this column only has one more wall in it, it must be here to avoid creating a 2x2. This column has 2 walls in it, and at the moment they could be... Oh yeah, all of these tiles are legitimate potentials. That's really interesting to work with, so that gives us these. Okay. Yeah, the shadow caverns are pretty straightforward. Oh, I do love the demons though. Who isn't a little bit pro demon from time to time? So 3. Only 2 of these 3 squares are walls. That is not, at the moment, super meaningful. I wonder if the monsters are completely randomly chosen, or if the procedural generation scheme has an idea of difficulty, because the monsters could totally represent the difficulty, right? So the thing that's interesting about this column is that because there's only one wall, we know that either this space or this space is open, and potentially both of them, but at the very least one of the two. Which does give us a little bit of guidance, but we can't really... Yeah, I don't think I can make anything of it yet. There's only one space open in this row. Well, I guess we know that this is a problem, obviously. So the one space that's open has to be down here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure we know that. Which means we also know this. Not that that's hugely meaningful. There's only one wall in the rest of the row. Which is interesting considering the 6 here fills up every space except for 1 in this column. Okay, how about this? There are 3 walls, or there's 2 walls left in this row, but there's 3 tiles adjacent to the monsters. One of these 2 is open. But it's not quite enough to actually do anything, because it could also be the case that 2 of these are open. And if that's true, then this is a wall, whereas if one of them is open, this is open, and really could be either, actually. Yeah, I think that still doesn't give us anything, unfortunately. Okay. There are 2 blocks left in this row. Which means at least one of these monsters... well, at least one of these spaces is open. Which I think doesn't tell us anything immediately. If at least one of these spaces is open, then at least one of these monsters is blocked from the bottom. But we have enough blocks that there's a lot of legal configurations of the remaining space. It's very tricky. Okay, this column. There are only 2 walls in this column. There are 4 spaces adjacent to monsters. But the way it's arranged, it's so difficult to say. Like, it could be the case that both of the walls are adjacent to this middle guy, in which case we have open, open, close, close. It could be one of them is adjacent to this middle guy and one of them is adjacent to the edge guys. So yeah, right now it is still the case that every monster adjacent tile in this column has a legal way to be a wall and has a legal way to be a corridor. We need just like a little bit more information than that, I think. I do feel like we're close though, because this row is like we nearly have enough information to solve it. This column, we nearly have enough information to solve it. And this column's like extremely conspicuous. This is a tougher one though. Okay, what about this space? So we have a row here that has 5 walls in it. We also have a row here that has 5 walls in it, which means that there are 4 walls in the remaining 6 spaces in both of them. How many legal configurations of that are there? What we could be looking at here is that there is one hallway that runs from north to south on the eastern part of the board. And by eastern, I just mean east of the 7. And then the other open spaces in those rows are one in each row belongs to one of the monsters, right? If there are 2 open spaces and 2 wall tiles left in the row that has the big monster in it, then no, it's still just, I think there's still just too many live permutations. It's tough. It's tough. Okay, let's talk about the bottom couple of rows. How about that? We have a pretty small number of remaining walls. And as such, there's actually probably not that many functional permutations of walls and open spaces here. So we have exactly 1 wall tile in the bottom row, and right now it looks like there are ways to imagine it being legal anywhere at the moment. But if there are also going to be only 2 further wall tiles in the row above it, that does change things quite a lot, right? It's like, if we do this, is this possible? You would end up having something like, right, that works. And it's also going to work if you swap the positions of these. I think there are just enough permutations that are legal that we can't actually make a solid deduction there. So you end up with this. This would have to be a wall. But then this could be a wall. Yeah, so there's a variety of positions that are still live. And in the row above it, there are 4 walls and 2 open, or 4 walls and 2 open spaces, but that is also, unfortunately, a thing that there's a lot of like live permutations of. That doesn't work. I'm kind of wondering, is there a version of this? No, we do know that. A couple of things we looked at just now required there to be at least 1 block in one of these 2 spaces. This column only has 1 wall in it, so I'm trying to figure out if we know for sure that 1 wall is in one of these 2 bottom spaces. So how would I set this up so that it wasn't? We're trying to prove this. Is there a way for this to be correct? That necessitates a wall tile there. Yeah, that's totally legal. Shit. Thought I was onto something there. If we could prove that the block had to be down here, and thus this was true, that was going to give us a ton to work with. Okay, what else? Can we actually make a reasonably educated guess about the positions of the 2 walls here? So if they are this and this, we have that. Then we get that and that. There's one more wall tile left in this row. Obviously, this necessitates that as well. This would have to be open. And it's very easy to get sort of like this idea, right? You end up having to put a wall here, though, which is problematic. This is less so, though. This has ways that it can work out. Right. So it does seem like this is a legal placement. I mean, I hate to do a guess and check, but it does kind of seem, oops. No, that doesn't work. Okay. I think everything we did there was necessary from this. So I think we may have just proved that this has to be one of the two wall tiles. I think we proved that this is impossible. Hold on. Now I have to... Let's look at it again. So we know that this can remain legal. Oops. So this can't be a wall. And for the same reason, this can't be a wall. If those things are true, then this is, and all of that stuff is required. So yes, I do believe that that does prove that these two are not wall tiles. They're not both of them. Which means this one is, which gives us that. That's not a ton to go on, but it's something. Then what? We don't know this. Or this. Those are fake pieces of information. So, we have 3 wall tiles left for these 5 spaces. But we also only have 1 wall tile in this row. That is actually going to be very constraining. How are we going to have only 1 wall tile in this space without creating a 2x2? And the answer is... we have to have something of a horizontal hallway here. And then we have to be very careful about where we put that wall. Like... well, no, that's not legal, because one of these two, one of these two spaces has to be open. I mean, could it be all the way on the edge? Something like this? Yes. And then there's 2 ways down through the... yeah. That seems possible. This would be the other wall in this case. So then you have that open. Obviously, that's a problem. So I'm pretty sure that this can't be a wall. I think we just showed that this leads to a chain of decision making that produces an impossible situation. If we know that this is a wall, or this is an open space, then we know at least one of the spaces adjacent to it is open. And I guess also one space adjacent to that is also open. Right? We don't know exactly where those are, but because there can't be a dead end, but there also can't be a dead end with only two spaces in it. So that means that we have these 3 open tiles connected to this and this open tile here, and everything else is walls, which means these 2 tiles are walls. We cannot currently speculate very effectively on what else around here is walls. I guess we know this. That's something. And actually, if this is true, I think it tells us some stuff about the bottom 2 rows, doesn't it? Because there probably aren't that many placements of wall tiles left that are legal. There's this. That's fine. Obviously, I think this is pretty problematic. Right? Because then the one wall tile here is, yeah. So I think we know that's open. This works. Can this be open? No. This has to be a wall then. Which actually, I think, yeah, solves the bottom couple of things here for us. If this is open, then that's also open. So we have 3 walls left to place in these 4 spaces. And if this is open, then we know that either this or this is the open space adjacent to that demon. These cannot both be walls. And as such, we know these are both walls. I don't think that's super meaningful to us just yet, but, you know, more information on the table is always good. So now we know we have 2 wall tiles left for these 3 spaces. It's not actually, I don't think that's actually useful yet. Okay, here we have 1 wall tile left. We know it can't be there because that would cause problem. So this has to be open, which does give us a little bit more information. And in fact, we now know that. And this, we ran out of wall tiles over there. So this is a wall. This is all the way open. This is all the way closed. That is where the open space is for you. This can't be a wall, so this must be a wall. So none of the rest of this is. There we go. Okay, it took a little bit more. That one took a little bit more reasoned deduction. That one was less easy. Okay, that is going to be it for us for today. I feel real stymied by that 20th century food court puzzle. So when you come back next week, I am at the very least going to have a beginning that can work in theory. That's what I'm hanging my hat on. And then we'll work out the logic together on camera and see what we can make of it. And maybe it will be, maybe it will take more than another day. It seems like quite a difficult puzzle, actually. And we'll see you then.